Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Suwannee County Board of County Commissioners meeting, January 19, 2021, at 6 p.m. If you would please stand, we'll have our invocation and our pledge by Commissioner White.
Lord, thank you for giving us another day on this earth. We ask that you give us wisdom and strength in making decisions for these taxpayers, Lord. Be with our first responders, firefighters, EMS, and military, Lord, and their families. And Lord, lay a healing hand on all the people that are sick with this COVID and help them get through some tough times. All these things we pray in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Once again, I'd like to welcome everyone tonight. Our first item of business is approval of minutes for our January 5th and our January 5th regular board meeting and our January 12th special call meeting. Do I have any questions, comments, or do I have a motion to approve? Have a motion by Commissioner Fleming. Second by Commissioner White. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving right along to our consent agenda, items 2 through 10. Do I have any questions or comments on any of these items? Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Hale.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Land. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. At this time, moving along to item number 11, our constitutional officers, our Ricky Gamble, our property appraiser. Is he here? Okay, he might be running a few minutes late if he comes. We'll bring him up. Moving ahead to item number 12, I'm gonna make a change here. We're gonna move down, Mr. Harris, I'm gonna move item 12 down a little bit because it's gonna be some stuff. Okay, I'm sorry. We'll circle back around.
No, my apologies. You're like, actually, I was early, but it's been so long since I've been to one of y'all's meetings, I went to the Coliseum. I pulled up, I said, dang, there's a bunch of people at this meeting, and then I pulled in, I said, hey, it's the right meeting. But,
Sir.
Mr. Chairman, board members, thank y'all for allowing me to come speak. What I wanted to come here and talk to y'all now is kind of twofold. When I was sitting on the board with y'all, we set money aside for a lot of the other constitutional officers when they return money back every year in their budget, kind of put it in a separate line for them. The proper appraiser's office has never made that request, and I wanted to come here tonight and ask y'all for that request. We finished up the end of year for our 2020 and are now turning back the funds. And we've got a bunch of upgrades that need to be done in the office, and I don't want to burden y'all with that come budget time, or even future budget years. If we can get it done with the money that we're turning back, that's the way I would like to move forward. This year we're turning around, I think it's roughly $71,000, and I've got a plan for where most of that needs to go, and if y'all like to hear it, I'll give you a brief rundown of it.
I would like, I mean, I think I've heard some of it, but I would like to hear some of it for the public.
Well, in 2018, the board approved about $250,000 to upgrade the property appraiser's computer system. They went in there, they had the old MS-DOS little blinking dot system, and we did a complete upgrade of it. Well, phase one was that, and I was chairman of the board at the time. I had met with the property appraiser and his assistant at that time on what their plans were, and with that system. Well, the second part of that was to take the 48 filing cabinets that are scattered throughout the office and scan them into the system so that they essentially go paperless. At the time, they thought that was going to be too much to ask for the $250,000 and the extra money for the scanning. After I seen the amount of money that we were turning back, I started reaching out to some different companies, just getting ballpark figures. And the quotes that I seem to be getting coming in are actually pretty decent it's about $1,000 per filing cabinet. And if you've never seen these filing cabinets, they are slam packed full of property records. That's every parcel in the county and the history that goes with that parcel up until about 2014, which they purged some of the old files. Along with that, and you can do the math, $1,000 filing cabinet is 48 filing cabinets. Along with that, we'll need the high-speed scanners that go along with scanning future documents to continue up, to keep up with it as the changes come. And then a storage system. Right now, they're currently storing over, that computer base is housed in the cloud, and if we're gonna put all our files online, I don't want them all stuck in the cloud. If something happens and we can't reach it, I'd like to be able to have in-house storage. This was a request that I was planning on making because I knew going into this position that it was gonna be something that come up in future budget years. But typically, from my experience on the board, property appraiser's office didn't turn back $10,000 to maybe $30,000 a year. And I'll tell you what happened in 2019, the lady that was running payroll and filing the bills, she double paid an invoice for $35,000. They budgeted for it in 20, and they never got invoiced for it. When they called to find out, they had double paid for it, so that's where that $70,000 comes from. They had the money they typically turn back, plus that unanticipated 35 that they didn't know the lady had double paid that year. So I just hope to take advantage of it. And that's a brief rundown. If I act like I'm in a hurry, I'll let them soccer game. That was pretty exciting.
Have any questions for Mr. Gammon? Board. I mean, I don't have a problem with it at all.
Just one question. Now that you're in there and you're seeing what's going on, is this obviously a common practice of offices like yours to go paperless to streamline things?
Yeah, a lot of them have. Columbia County did it a couple of years ago, and instead of hiring a firm to do it, they actually hired somebody to come. They created another position, hired an employee, bought a high-speed scanner, and that's what that employee did every day, came in and scanned files. But I mean, the minimum wage, $15 an hour, the benefits you have to have for the employee, I don't want to put anybody on the payroll for a job that I can budget out for a one-time expense of $48,000. You know, once you have them on payroll, they're on payroll, and I'm not in the need of that position. But yes, it's common practice throughout the state right now. And moving forward with Suwannee County growing, I'm telling y'all, the space that we have for filing cabinets is running out. They're slammed full, and as the county continues to break up, divide, and continue to grow, every time a new parcel is added, that's a new property card. Every time y'all approve a subdivision and it's got X amount of lots in it, that's a new property card, and it just continues to grow from there.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
will that $70,000 do what you need done?
I believe it will from the numbers that I have gotten so far. If it won't, I will ask y'all to roll it over and we'll continue to plan. But I haven't gone out and got official bids. I was just in a scramble when we figured up the total and seen how much money was left to get some numbers to see if it was doable with those numbers. Because in 2018, when they originally had the meeting with the companies, the numbers they were throwing at me as chairman was a lot higher than that. So I was kind of surprised that the price had come down to what it was. I was actually excited about it when I heard it. But all that'll come back to y'all. That's where I want to go with it. If y'all will graciously set the money aside in a line like we've done for the other costs, like we do for the supervisor of elections or for the clerk on the IT budget, if we can set it aside. When it gets to that time, I'll bring all the information back to y'all and ask y'all to approve it.
Chairman, I don't have a problem with it.
Yes, sir. Good. We got a consensus, you're good to go?
I'll need a motion in a second on that.
Not at this point, not at this point.
I just feel better. Gentlemen, I appreciate it. I hate to rush off, but I'm right in the middle of soccer game. Good seeing y'all. Thank you.
See you.
Slide in late, leave early, can I do that?
Moving ahead, I was saying on item number 12, I'm gonna move it down the line a little bit, got a couple of things. Mr. Harris, let's go ahead and cover item number 13. Sir? I mean, I didn't really think 13 was gonna take too long.
13 won't take very long. Can you hear me? Is this thing working?
I don't think it's working too loud.
I don't think it's working.
Mine's working with me. Just speak up real loud.
Okay. I need authorization to apply for some grants. How's that? I'd like to bring these opportunities back to the board first. We used to do that when we got into developing the catalyst site. We realized that there were timing glitches that caused problems for us, so the board approved back then by going ahead and trying to apply for grants, get that whole system started with applications, and then come back to the board with them after the fact. That's what I need to do. Right now, we're getting emails on a regular basis from the federal government, state government, with opportunities to apply for grants for funding a number of different things. Projects that I have to bring back to the board anyway, but I just need to be able to go ahead and start applying for some things now while we have opportunities. Sometimes these things are competitive, and we need to get our application in before others do. So that's what I'm asking for.
Some of them are asking for grants, is asking other people to help us with some money. I mean,
I'm all good with that.
Exactly.
Well, you have to bring it back before us, the grant that you apply for.
At some point, it all has to come back to the board. That's correct.
You just need authorization.
I need authorization to go ahead and get started with some of these things.
I have a motion by Commissioner Fleming,
Second.
second by Commissioner Land. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Harris. I'm gonna move ahead to item number 14. Discuss with possible board action utility agreement for extension of water main from catalyst site water plant. Mr. Harris?
Commissioners, you have a copy, and I got a copy out for Flawland, the company that has an interest in extending our water line, building a water main from our catalyst site water plant over to 169, and servicing some property over there. There's an improvement plan that's associated with this for a particular development. We've been working on this for probably 6 months or more. In any event, I think we're closer today than we've ever been. This latest revision that I circulated a little bit earlier has some, addresses a number of items that I had heard as what I'll call constructive criticisms from any number of people about the agreement. But I think we have all of those addressed now, or as many as we could address in this thing in order to try to move it along. What's happening is the development is going to require a certain amount of water and a certain size water main to be run from our water plant. And I had proposed at the time that the county asked them to increase the size of the pipe, and the county paid the difference for the increase in the size of the pipe. And they are willing to do that if we pay for that difference. The cost of PVC pipe has gone up over the last year quite dramatically. We've run numbers very recently, and those are included in the agreement. In addition to that, we have a contribution of up to 50% of the labor cost not to exceed $51,200. The material cost for the increase at today's rates is $72,461 to increase the size of that pipe. The other issues that we've been working on have been ensuring that the easements are in place for the water line to be extended. I received some information today on probably the largest portion of the easement that needs to be considered, and we just need to verify that. Mr. Pravat can work on that. I sent it to him, but it was kind of late in the day. Then there's some other easements that we'll need some documentation on, and I think that can happen. Commissioners, when I sent the draft out on Friday, there were some exhibits that I didn't have. I believe that all of you have seen most of that now, the exhibits. We've got the layouts. I have a copy of the engineered plans, which was one of the exhibits that needed to be included. It was a revised drawing. The first time we received it a week or two ago, it needed to be adjusted, and that was taken care of. So I'm satisfied with that engineered drawing now. It's in my office. And I can answer any questions that you have, if you have any. I could go through this whole detail, but it would take a while to sit here and go through it, but I think I've spoken to the key pieces of it.
At this time, I'll ask the board if they have any questions or comments for Mr. Harris or the owners of the companies here that would be able to answer anything, if you have anything that Mr. Harris didn't answer.
Is this a budgeted item? This expense?
This was not a budgeted item. We would have to pay, I mean, we've got the money that we can pay that difference, the $72,461. The company would have to pay the impact fee that we charge. That isn't negotiable in our ordinance and our adoption with our resolution of rates. That has to be paid by everyone that hooks up. So there is an impact fee, they would have to pay that. And impact fees are designed to cover the cost of capital items, and that's what this would be. If this company wasn't involved and we were out there building ourselves, then we would use the impact fees from other entities if they had paid them in over the years. If this was an older facility, utility that we have, we would take what revenues we had generated in impact fees and we would spend those toward any extension of lines. In this particular case, they're in need of extending the line before we are. The benefit to us would be the upsize in the pipe. It puts the water main closer to the interchange of I-10 US 90. If customers come along, that line is going to be closer to where it's going to be needed in that particular direction. A question was asked about service to the catalyst site. We have other property there, and we have, some of you may be aware, the Development Authority tied up additional land contiguous to us that will hopefully develop as part of the catalyst site. We have a water main on that site that we would simply need to tap and extend those lines, so we're good on the catalyst site. It's just, we've never had an opportunity to extend the lines back closer to I-10 than we have today.
Do I have any other questions?
What are those fees in there? You said, I know what you said about the county, that we have to pay, but what tap into the company?
There's a schedule. We have a schedule of rates, and we have a schedule of impact fees and tap fees that the board adopted. That was a part of our requirement that was associated with the funding that we received to build the utilities out there on I-75. So there's a whole schedule of those. And I'm just citing, given the size line that and meter that I know that they're going to need, that particular impact fee that's associated with that was $51,200.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Commissioner
Uh,
White?
Mr. Harris, are we still doing the 400 feet of additional piping extending south along 169th Road that was in the first draft of this?
It's actually in the drawing, and that's why it isn't listed in here as a condition, because it's included in the engineered drawing that they redid and submitted.
So we are doing it.
That additional footage would be in there, that's correct.
Well,
Any
and-
additional easement too.
Yeah, this agreement speaks to the easement for that as well.
Well, in the first draft, we had a $7,500 fee in there for that 400 additional feet. It's not in this one we have in front of us now.
Did you want to add that?
No, sir. I'm just asking, are we gonna still, I mean, is that still part of the
It's
program?
still part of the plan.
Is the money still a part of the plan? The $7,500?
It isn't in this, well, I'm gonna tell you why it isn't in there. When their attorney sent that over to us, they had taken that out. So that's why it isn't in here, but it is in their drawings to construct.
I guess I'm not being clear.
I might not be clear.
Well, I'm not just
I
trying to-
wasn't planning on including the expense in this agreement, if that's your question.
That's my question, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I would like to ask the owner, Mr. Noble and Mr. Lawson, I have a question.
Mr. Lawson or Mr. Nobles, you come to the microphone.
Yes, sir.
Just state your name and address for the record.
Randy Nobles, 6283 77th Place, Live Oak.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I see that, it's a whereas Florida Land proposed to develop property. This RV park or campground, what would be your size or how many campers or what would, what?
Right now, the preliminary drawings for 499 sites. It's gonna be built in phases.
Okay. Pretty good.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
That's it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I got a couple questions. I was going, one for Mr. Harris. On the money side, we know that the budget's been a hot topic this year due to what we're going through as a country. Where exactly do you plan on getting the funds in the budget? Because based on my calculations, I only see we got 300,000 in contingency funds available. You got a specific idea on where we're gonna pull that 100 and something thousand from?
We are gonna have a significant amount of money that's coming from the federal government. We've already got part of it that I've spoken to, I think, most of you about. As reimbursement for our first responders this past year. And we've been talking to them every day. We already have part of the money. We can easily cover this expense.
When, do you know a timeline on when we expect that remaining balance that
I
they give
don't
us?
know right now. We've been pressing for an answer to that question. There's some paperwork that continues to be shuffled back and forth, but we hope to have the answer to that question before the end of this week.
Okay. And then my second question about this would be, as stewards of taxpayers' dollars, any other expense that we would incur on a county level individually for us doing business, we would acquire 3 quotes. I didn't really see, I saw one quote from a consolidated company out of Tallahassee. Is there, by chance, can we go back to verify that we're getting the best deal that's out there in the market today with the vendors of the pipe? And then also on the labor side, are those, are those solid numbers? I haven't seen any solid quotes, if you will.
Let me speak to the material side first. When we started this about 6 months ago, I think we obtained 4 or 5 quotes. They were all really close to one another. In fact, I think the lowest one at that time may have been in Ocala. But we checked with Ferguson Enterprises in Ocala and one in, I think, Jacksonville or Tallahassee, Consolidated, and a couple of others. We ran the numbers recently because we knew that the PVC pipe was going up. There've been articles all over the news about this for the past year. If the board were to approve this agreement, you could make it a contingent upon us using the lowest number associated with 3 bids, and that wouldn't be a problem. We just happen to have one right now. I actually called Ferguson today and asked them, because they still have the bid numbers that they had submitted before. I've asked them to update the numbers, I just don't have them back yet.
Yeah, I just think for
On the labor side, we haven't run numbers.
who would be the contractor?
Well,
Have we-
we wouldn't be handling the contracting on the labor side.
Okay.
They would. I will say this from experience, though, we couldn't go out there and build it for $51,200.
Oh, I understand that.
It would be considered the middle ground.
One question, Mr. Chairman. I know just moving forward, I mean, this, anything that, you build something like this, there's gonna be other attractions, we hope, other businesses, things like that. And I know I've asked this, but I just can't remember, that water tank system that we have, it's an expandable system? I mean, can we continue to provide,
We won't have any problem providing this water. We've got plenty of capacity. Let me say this, though, and we put the language in this agreement as well. The county is always subject to the regulatory authority. DEP tells us what we're gonna do, water management works on the consumption side, our capacity. They could make changes tomorrow. If so, then we have to make changes. And that language is in here that says that any reservation of capacity is subject to adjustments by the regulating authorities.
Any other questions at this time? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
Can I make a quick statement?
Wait, sorry, I didn't see you. Apologize.
It's where I just have to say, as clerk, I understand that we are sure that we're gonna get these monies, but we do not have these monies yet. These monies have not been audited, and we have to go through an audit process prior to being able to utilize these funds. I don't know that I can support us using funds that we do not have, and funds that have not been audited, so that we know that these funds are gonna be able to be utilized.
Mr. Chairman, we actually have,
If you want to use, your contingency, and then that goes up, whenever the money's come, I can understand that, but unless that we have the money in hand or something from somebody that shows that the money is definitely here, I just have, it gives me heartburn on it.
Mr. Chairman, we actually have more than enough money to cover this expense that we've already received. Having said that, I don't have any problem if the board wants to use your contingency until we're finished with the paperwork associated with federal funds, but we have well in excess of anything that we needed to spend that was associated with the federal funds that I'm speaking of.
Yeah, I don't have a problem. I mean, that's what the contingency's there for, things like this.
I personally would rather see us dip into, if we're gonna decide to do this, I'd rather see us use some of the money from the admin building. We got 800 on that line item, and then replace that later. I think that project's probably far out. Maybe move some of those funds over for a temporary basis. I don't know what this construction period looks like on this particular project. I've never asked that question. I don't know if this is a 6-month project or a year project.
Yeah, I don't know how long it's gonna take them to do the project.
And there again, not knowing that, I hate dipping into the contingency fund for a project that we don't really know how long it's gonna take, because then those funds might be gone, then we're looking at where to get the money from to replace those if something else comes up. I mean,
I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, it's okay.
I would be in support of what Commissioner Hale said, that that's what contingency's there for, and I think it's a very short-term thing, and, versus taking it out of line items that's already established. I mean, now if we get down the line and we have a problem, and it gets down to next to zero, then absolutely, we go take it out of one of those line items that we've already put it in. I mean, that's just my saying,
That's normally how we do it, it come out of contingency. But since I've been on the board almost 11 years, I haven't still sort of failed yet.
right.
But, I mean, it could possibly happen, but I'm on the same line, Commissioner Lynn and the other two commissioners, and I'd rather see it come out of contingency.
Could-
My pleasure.
Commissioner.
I just wanted to ask Randy and Mr. Lawson, how long do y'all, when do you expect to start on this? How long do you think it's gonna take?
That's a good question. We've got to get the DEP permit, and then, shouldn't be long like that, we should start burying pipe.
Any idea how long it's gonna take to do it, once you start? So maybe 6 to 8 months total?
Yes, that's what
Probably not quicker.
Does that put us into another budget year?
August.
August?
Is there any way, could I ask these guys a question? Is there any way that you could start the process on your DEP permit without this? So we don't, maybe we could table this until you kind of have a guarantee? Because if we, in my opinion, and Mr. Chairman, I might be wrong, but if we approve this, then we're committed on it, on how we approve it, whether it be contingency or whatever. Is there a way that we could let those guys get a little closer to obtaining their permits and then bring it back to the board for approval without, I mean, that's just an idea. I don't know if that's right or wrong. I kinda asking them, I don't know the process of a DEP permit, excuse my ignorance, but I never applied for one.
I'll address it.
Sir?
I'll address it.
Yes, sir. Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Well-
The county has to apply for the DEP permit. They have to fill out the application, we have to send it off. So it's gonna be up to the county when they get it submitted to DEP.
I don't personally envision this taking a great deal of time. What took a lot of time was constructing the water plant. This is, but I can't tell you how long it's gonna take.
I mean, everybody needs to speak for themselves, but I'm in support of the project. I've spoken to these gentlemen and studied it and understand it, and it's not just this project to me, we're putting water down through there you have to have something, I feel, if you want other folks to come, and sometimes you have to spend money to get there, so that's one of the things I look at is, we get a lot of calls and they wanna know if we have water, if we have sewer, and, well, we don't, but we plan to have it in so many years, well, they go to the next county. So I understand the struggle with spending money. Completely understand Commissioner Land's position. That's just my position is I'm in support of it and I would like to move forward, but obviously it's up to each one of us to make that decision and how we feel about it.
Can I say something?
Yes, sir?
I don't have a problem with the project. I'm in favor of it. My question is, if somebody else comes out there, just say it's the other direction, and they wanna put pipe in, are we gonna do the same thing for them that we're doing for these folks here?
As far as,
Let's say somebody else wants to put RV park on the west side over there, and they want a water line run, are we gonna do the same thing for those folks too?
well, we're not, maybe Mr. Harris would be better to answer this, but I mean, really, we're not running the water line.
I mean, I get it, but we're cost sharing, that's what I'm saying. Are we gonna cost share? To my way of thinking as a taxpayer, if you do it for one, you gotta do it for everybody.
And I understand that, and I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying now, that what I would say with that is,
I guess it'd be on.
if I could get that much water line done for this least amount of money, I would do it again. I mean,
Well, and that's just where I'm getting at. I mean, if we're gonna, just when somebody else comes with this same proposal, I just feel like we're gonna be at the same point. I just wanna throw that out here. It's not that I'm against this, I'm in favor of it, I get it.
Well,
But-
yeah, and I'm just speaking of what you're saying, I'm saying, if we take a $350,000 job, I'm just guessing on the round numbers of what the total amount would be, and we're able to spend a small portion of that and get our water line that many feet down the road, I feel like it's working.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
interest of the people.
Yeah, I want to be clear, I'm not against their project. I'm in favor of the project. I just wanted to be cautious on the money side, the spending side.
That's
I think it's a good thing to get the water out there. That interchange has been dead for a long time. I'm not against it at all.
I'm saying, and I agree with everything they're saying, I'm in favor of the project. The only thing I think I would add is, we're looking at the monies here we're gonna spend, running it that way, but just a couple people looking to it, just pay for it.
Oh, I get that.
Absolutely.
That's kind of what I'm thinking, therefore, moving forward. And to answer Mr. White's question, I think we would have to just talk it out at that point in time, too. Take away the cost of it.
I mean, obviously, you can't not do for others what you've done for someone, and I understand what you're saying, I just feel like it's a sound legal agreement is what I'm getting at, I mean.
Oh, it is that.
I don't feel like that the county's going in a direction that we shouldn't go, I mean, we're trying to be positive, growth, and.
But I can't remember which one it was, I do agree with possibly bids, or like bids,
Yeah, I
things
just
of that.
firm that
And I-
number a little bit.
And I think they had said that they had that before,
Yeah.
way back, but it's been a slow process coming back, so I don't have an issue with that, I mean, But gentlemen, I mean, it's the pleasure of the board. I would entertain a vote here if we could get one.
I'm not making a motion, like I say, including
And absolutely,
I can't remember if it was you, Mr. Frank, or Mr. White.
it was Commissioner Lane that we add that as a,
Yeah.
what's the word I'm looking for?
Contingency or something of some quote.
Are you talking about subject to the?
Three quotes on the cost of the pipe.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I can work with that.
I believe I have, with that being said, I believe I have a motion by Commissioner Hale.
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Fleming.
Mr. Chairman, and this is with funds coming from contingency, is that correct?
That's what I was going to ask.
That
I think that's the right way to do it.
That's,
I agree.
is that the consensus of the board? Matt?
I'm the new guy on the block. I was looking at the pot with the biggest amount of money that was a long way away from us really probably actually using it. And I'm a frugal guy, so.
If we run out of one, then would be the time we would do that for sure.
But that is, when the federal funds get audited, that money gets put back into contingency, correct?
You can put it, it's actually gonna be in general revenue. You can put money back in contingency if you want to, or you
I
can
get you.
use it, from the, general revenue, subject to a budget amendment, which we'll get into a conversation on in just a few minutes on another item.
Okay, we cleared up on the three bids and the contingency. I have a motion by Commissioner Hale and a second by Commissioner Fleming. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0, gentlemen. We thank y'all, and I wanted to move yours ahead because I knew we was gonna have some long discussion on another matter, and you are welcome to stay or you're welcome to leave at this time, so.
Thanks.
Yes, sir. Moving ahead, we're going to discuss item number 12 now. Discuss with possible board action purchase of radios from Sheriff's Department. Mr. Harris.
Commissioners, we've actually we've had a conversation several times about this, and we've talked about it, I think we had one workshop, and then we talked about it in budget meetings. And let me just go ahead and say that, some of the comments that Commissioner Land made a moment ago would be applicable to this conversation. That being the use of the federal funds that are coming back. I would submit to you that if the board agrees to go ahead and move on these radios, then that actual purchase needs to be contingent upon those federal funds being freed up. Okay? That's really important. Now, we started a conversation, I don't even remember now, 2 or 3 years ago probably, on these radios. At that time, I had not participated in the meetings. The sheriff and the fire chief had participated in the meetings with various companies. What had been proposed to the board at the time was that we agreed to get on the state's system, the SLUR system, which I think actually that acronym actually stands for State Law Enforcement Radio System, I believe is what that means. Later, and we got real close, I think, recently on going ahead and doing something, but then we held up. We had more conversations about, and some more emphasis placed on the question of whether or not this system was going to work for fire rescue. I finally participated in a meeting recently. Chief Ann was there, the sheriff was there, Sean Larney was there from the Sheriff's Department. We had a consultant there offering some comments, but at the end of the day, the decision has been bounced back and forth, and ultimately, I think my opinion is that the fire rescue service does not need to be on this SLUR system. It just doesn't work for them. And they've run around the county. We'd already made some investments in equipment at the fire rescue department. They're using their equipment running around. There are some improvements that would need to be made to towers that are out there today. Some repeaters would have to be installed and some other equipment, but we would still have to come back and visit the fire rescue side of this later. So the conversation today is really about the Sheriff's Department. I think earlier conversations centered around about $1.5 million, and I think today the number is just under $1 million with just the Sheriff's Department. if we're going to do it, then that's where the money would have to come from, is this other funding. We received a letter today from a different company. You know, they're suggesting that maybe we should look at what the school board did. I don't know what to tell you about that. I'm not a radio expert. What I can tell you is that you received a letter from a salesman at another company saying, oh, you know, we think you should wait. There might be some changes occurring with the state system in the near term, maybe within 6 months, unless the contract that the state currently has is extended, and this equipment continues to be used by the state. The system, if the county buys into this system, this slur system, we would be essentially a participating party in the state's agreement, the state contract. We would make application, and county would have to be approved as a participating party by the joint task force that's set up by the state. We would purchase the equipment, and then we would be on a tower system that's managed by the state, or through a state contract, actually. Those are the bullet points that I can offer. Again, I'm not a radio expert, and I don't know what to tell you about the letter that you received today from this other company.
At this time, I would like to, I feel like Commissioner Scott would have some questions, possibly would like to ask, but I'd like for the sheriff to come up, and maybe if he has a representative that would want to speak afterwards, or at the same time, is fine. I do want to acknowledge the letter we received today, that that is public record, and it's from another company, and I'm sure people have questions, and I would just like to get your input and your thoughts on it. And some of these things I have heard a lot about before, and you have addressed them before, so some of it's repetitive, but some of the folks wasn't here. So, Sheriff, if you want to just give us a brief rundown of your thoughts, and maybe your guy there that have been talking about it.
Yeah, I'll probably let him, Mr. Josh Franklin, address some of the questions in the letter. But you know, I've been with the sheriff's office. Well, January was 40 years. I done something 2 weeks ago that I've never been able to do in 40 years, and that was tap on a handheld radio anywhere in Suwannee County. There was 4 of us, myself, Buddy Williams, Sean Larney, and Tom Warren, all took a radio, and we all went different directions, and there was not a spot in Suwannee County that we could not talk on the radio. And I'm telling you, I've been in the sheriff's office since 1979, and I've never, ever been able to do that. And that's me as the sheriff. You know, that's what I want to accomplish, you know, because when I was elected back in 2017, actually my platform in 2016 was upgrade the sheriff's office, and with help of all your commissioners here, I've done, you know, here and pat myself on the back, I think we've done a real excellent job with the help of y'all. And this is the last piece here. And not only, you know, naturally, you know, I've been on the patrol for a long time, so I've been out in the trenches, and I know what I'm talking about. I'm not just up here behind a desk saying, okay, we need to do this. I've been there. I've been there when, you know, fighting and scrapping with someone, and you get on the radio and it don't work. And I can tell you that's not a fun experience. And that's what we're experiencing today. I can tell you time after time after time of officer safety issue, because the guys, once they get out of that car, they're away from their radio, and they naturally don't have time when they're up there talking to a suspect, they're scrapping with a suspect, they're fighting with a suspect. They can't say, hey, hold on, let me go to my car to call some help. They don't have that time, they have that luxury. I've been there. I know exactly what I'm talking about, guys, because I've been there numerous times, and I can tell you time to time with all the officers that, you know, they're chasing someone, they get out on foot, you know, and as a supervisor on the patrol, you know, we had to hunt them. You know, we had a good idea where they might be, but, you know, all we hear was a bunch of squash on the radio, and you couldn't tell that talk or find out what was going on or where they was at. So not only, you know, as the sheriff now, I want the best equipment for my guys, but also I want everybody that I have fun with me go home at night. And I'm telling you guys, this is one of the things that we really need, guys. I mean, it's really imperative, you know. You know, knock on, we have not had anybody hurt because of the radio. you know, I mean, other than, you know, a delay of them trying to get out and tell them where they are, so we can get some help to them. So this is, I mean, this is very imperative to me, to all my guys, you know, that work out there every day, every night, you know, protecting Suwannee County. Not only does it protect my guys, but it protects the citizens of Suwannee County, you know, to get extra help, because naturally, the more people you get there on a scene, the less, you know, if someone's being aggressive, when I say 2 or 3 officers there, you know, they're gonna back down, so it saves us a lot of problems. I mean, I could go on forever about what the need is. And also, you know, I've not took this lightly. I know it's gonna be a lot of money, but guys, I think every radio company that makes a radio, we have met with in the last 4 years. We have not just picked one radio system, okay, let's go with this right here because I like it. We have talked and had meetings for 4 years on this. We've not taken this lightly, and we've now, you know, come down to the wire for the slurs radios. And guys, just like I said, you know, we all, two weeks ago, I done something I've never been able to do in 40 years, and it works. All I want is when I key that radio, I can talk to dispatch, talk to another deputy, tell them where I'm at, and what's going on, and that's just so vital in today's world. You know, so here again, we just really need this, guys. I'm gonna let Mr. Josh, you know, kind of address some of the questions that was in this letter.
I appreciate the comments, Sheriff. I just really wanted you to come up and, like this gentleman, and address some of these questions, because my support, I'm not a radio expert. I put my trust in the Sheriff of Suwannee County to go out and do research like you've done for months, if not years, to try to come up with the right thing. So I'm supporting you. If you feel like this is the way we need to go, then my support is with you. But I want this board to feel comfortable, because before we're finished this evening, I would like to have a vote and let's decide what we're gonna do. I mean, but for us to do that, I want everybody to feel comfortable with questions. If they have any, I would like them to ask this gentleman, and hopefully we can be clear enough to be able to move forward.
Go ahead.
Did you have a question?
No, I was just gonna ask, Sheriff St. John there to clarify to the folks out here, you and I have talked about it, but when you say talk side to side county, you're talking about, for these people, portable, handheld. You know, that's the part, that the safety issue, when these guys leave their cars and those stronger radios that are considered, I don't know what you call them.
Yeah,
Portable.
where you got the mobile
You're talking
radio.
about handhelds.
Yeah,
can
mobile
talk.
radios in the car and then in the portable. That's where the problem has been for, like I say, over 40 years. What, you know, naturally we can't stay in the car. You know, we got to get out and to go where the problem's at. And once we get out and away from that car radio, you know, sometimes we can't get back to it. You know, and we're stuck there. You know, trying to defend for ourselves if we can't get out and say, hey, this is what's going on. Plus, every time that we get out on a call, with a traffic stop, disturbance, or whatever it is, our dispatch is calling that deputy saying, hey, are you okay? You know, that's what we're trained to do. And if they can't, you know, get back to them, or deputy can't get back to them, then we send the cavalry to them. So it's just, I just can't stress to you enough, guys, of how bad we need this. And here again, I'll just let the expert answer some of the questions on that letter for you.
We got your passion.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah, I just wanted you to explain to these folks, you're talking about handheld.
Please, just state your name and.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
Just real quick, I just wanted to make sure, because I was gonna thank you for asking the question, because I know that's been a big, question of you guys with this product. Does the handheld work? I mean, we know that the power can be put in the cars, they have, you know, amplifiers and things like that, but what you're saying here tonight is, you're going to all 4 corners of the county with a handheld radio.
Right. And Commissioner Hill, they work so well, is that, matter of fact, is that there's, you know, work to help cut costs, you know, not all the patrol guys will have the one in the car and a handheld, which is, you know, you put on you hold it in your hand and you can get out with it. You know, all my investigators, the civil, all administration, they work so well, I feel confident, you know, we don't get up and take calls like they do, but I feel confident, you know, that we can get by and save money, like just having a handheld just for administrative, civil, and so forth on it, because they work so well.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Josh Franklin, Williams Communications.
Yes, sir.
I saw a little bit of the letter this afternoon. I didn't get to really go line by line. So if I don't answer any of your questions, please just let me know. I'll try to answer as best I can. I'm not a radio expert. I am the sales representative, so anything a little bit more technical might need to go out, and I might need to get the answer from my technical team. But just some of the highlights that were in that letter. All the radios that have been proposed to the sheriff's office are all public safety grade radios. You saw a little terminology in there, the P25 network and then the FirstNet LTE broadband network. The radios proposed to the sheriff's office are not only capable of the P25, they're also capable of the LTE broadband. So if the state does go that direction in the future, those radios will be upgradable to that as well. You saw in the letter that the contract between the state and the Harris system is expiring in June of 2021. They're in negotiations to extend that contract. Regardless if that contract is extended or what direction the state decides to go for the upgrade of the radio system, all radios proposed in this proposal in front of you is open standard. P25 is an open standard. So basically any radio that is a public safety grade radio, that the radio system, the radios proposed in this proposal will work on any of those systems. So any public safety grade radio system that the state decides to go to, the investment that the taxpayers are making with the sheriff's office, those radios will be upgradable. Not only will the radios be upgradable, but the dispatch center that we are upgrading through this process as well, because the dispatch center is also antiquated and needs to be upgraded along with the radio system going on to the slurs. Regardless of what direction the slur systems goes, the dispatch center is upgradable to that direction as well from the P25 open standard. We have also accounted for the school board system to be monitored at dispatch, and as well as the county fire and EMS radio system will be monitored at dispatch as it is today. They will continue to dispatch in the same way that they do for them, and then the upgraded system for the sheriff's office as well.
Do you have any type of idea, say if it went a different direction after June 30th of this year and you had to upgrade, do you have any idea of what that cost may be?
For the state or for you guys?
Well, it would be, I'm saying for the county.
For Suwannee County, nothing. Everything is covered under, everything in those radios will be upgradable to the new system regardless of what that new system is when it gets to that point.
So
we have you covered.
We wouldn't have another expense at that time
No,
if
sir.
it went a different way.
No, sir.
Software, whatever, software, anything?
No, sir. Nope. All the software features that are needed to be on the requirements for the P25 network that the state will be going to next, those are covered in this. And that was the idea of these radios are not only capable of the system that it is today, but whatever direction the state decides to go, these radios will be upgradable through that without an extra cost.
Could you address this, what Baker put in here about the school system and the system they're using? I mean, can you expand on that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know exactly what they purchased. It wasn't purchased through me. It is a radio type that I do have in my portfolio. It's not a public safety grade radio system. Okay. At the end of the day, it's more of a commercial and industry radio system. It's smaller handheld. It's not as durable. It's a different communication platform. The communication platform that we're proposing for the sheriff's office is the same radio system that not only the state law enforcement agencies use. You have Lafayette County, you have Columbia County, Alachua County, Levy County. You would be able to interop with all of those systems, and any 800 public safety radio system you would be able to have interoperability with.
I have any other questions for this gentleman?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir. Commissioner White.
Under this contract, it says Suwannee County Sheriff's Office and Live Oak PD. Sheriff, are we doing Live Oak radios too in this, or what?
Wherever we go to, they'll go to, but at their expense.
So this doesn't include what theirs?
No, sir. No, so they have a separate proposal given to them. Their numbers are not included in your numbers there.
Right.
But for the process of the application for the state, we put it together because you guys will be communicating on the same radio frequencies together. So we wanted to make sure that whatever the sheriff's office does, the police department is involved with, and will have the same exact radio for communication purposes.
And I know you, just to give you some idea, Mr. White, is that, Commissioner White, is that, we've been dispatching for the city of Live Oak for, well, I know for 40 years, and I know it's been longer than that, and, and they, and, I know their funds are limited, but, we have never charged them a dime for, and 50% of our calls and activities inside city limits of Live Oak, so we do them a tremendous favor, I believe, by helping them out with dispatching. But the expense of the radios would be theirs, but then we would all be on the same system. So we'll naturally, because we interact with them, every day, so we would need to be on the same system.
So, will the contract be under the Suwannee County Sheriff's Office or Suwannee County Commissioners?
As of right now, it is under the Suwannee County Sheriff's Office.
Is, Mr. Harris or Chairman, the board is paying for this, I'm assuming. Who's paying for the radios? Where's the money coming from?
I think, if I can.
I mean, I get the federal funds.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think he said contingent on that.
But what I'm saying is if we're paying for it, shouldn't the contract be under Suwannee County Commissioners, not the Sheriff's Department?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, you've got some agreements in there that are old. I think they're dated 2019, I believe. So that, at the very least, that has to be fixed. The board just has to make that decision. I had worked hard to make sure that and they came forward with all the contracts. There was one that had to be renewed, and we need some evidence of that extension. But otherwise, we had gone through the process of trying to ensure that this is going to be piggybacked on a state contract, and it is. So that's the plan. If the board wants to make the purchase, it'll be in the board's name. If you want the sheriff's department to make the purchase, it'll be in the sheriff's name. One thing I would suggest, and I've talked to Mr. Pravat about this as well, and I know that the sheriff and I have had this conversation. We don't want to blow his budget up where he comes back next year with and saying, I need another $1 million because you gave me another $1 million throughout the fiscal year. So we don't want to do that. So it'll ultimately be up to the board. I do want to emphasize one thing though, and that is that this system is going to be relying on towers that, again, are going to be managed through a state contract. The school system right now, I believe, is using local towers with repeaters. And that's what we've been using as local towers. That's one of the significant changes, that this is a significant upgrade in what's going on with this whole service. It isn't just, although the radios may be much better, it's also the tower service, and the state's contract to ensure that those towers are always up and running, and we're not having to run around, push the button, start the generator, or whatever it happens to be. So that's one of the significant differences in the system that they're talking about. That is the system then that the police department would be operating on as well, that tower system. But they would have to purchase their own radios in order for that to occur.
I don't have any problem with how.
Well, that's what the point I was getting to with the budget thing is, shouldn't it be under ours, not the sheriff's? So at some point, we don't have to come back, whether it's Sheriff St. John or somebody else, it may be sheriff later on down the road. We just keep adding to that sheriff's budget, is the point I'm getting at. That's why I'm saying it needs to be that way, or I think it needs to be that way.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Clerk. I'm sorry.
That's not, go ahead.
We've been going round and round this about 3 years, and I've always been in support of it, because I have 23 years with the state of Florida, and we have these 800 megahertz radios. They are crystal clear. I am for officer safety. I've said that from the beginning. It's one of the best things that could happen to this county. We have an officer out there, and God forbid something happens to that officer. Somebody gonna have to pay. I'd rather pay for the radio than pay for a life, but you can't bring a life back. Somebody have daughters and sons, mothers and fathers. I have a son there. I'm there, but on the state side. My preference is that, Commissioner White, you brought an interesting point up about who owns it. I can't say that it'll make a difference whether the county owns it or whether the sheriff department owns it, but I am in so much favor of this that we move on tonight with what the sheriff is proposing, what you're asking for. Now, I don't know how you feel with the county, with the Board of County Commissioners owning. How would you feel with the county, Board of County Commissioners?
Mr. Clyde? I mean, unless there's something, some type of legal aspect that I'm not seeing, maybe Mr. Jimmy can provide that. I don't care who buys it. I'm being serious. I just would like the radio system, you know, because I know it works. If we buy, you know, if we tested it 2 weeks ago, if we buy it 2 weeks from now, it's gonna work just like it did. So it doesn't bother me unless there's some type of a legal aspect of it. It doesn't bother me, but, and I appreciate your comments there also, Mr. Commissioner. Fleming.
Yeah, so I want to ask Commissioner White, you want it under the Board of County Commissioners?
Yes, sir.
That's what it'll be.
Thank you.
Let me ask one question though. Mr. Pravat, is there any, do you see any problem with that?
No, sir. Either way is fine.
So I
And
don't
I
have a problem
didn't
with any
have
of
the
that.
same budget, sorry.
I just had a thought here, and I know we had talked about this, like you said, over the last couple of years. And I'm just asking, maybe we'll have a refresher here, but we know that the school board's under a certain radio system. Our fire is not going with this, they're under, and of course, the fire department for the city as well. I know there's many channels on those radios. Are they gonna be able to communicate in real time just like we do today, or is that gonna be an extra expense? Is that gonna
So
be?
the fact of the matter is they don't communicate today. They're on different radio frequencies.
Okay.
At dispatch, everyone will be monitored at dispatch, and you'll have the capability to be able to patch the radios at that particular
Through dispatch.
position through dispatch.
Gotcha.
But from radio to radio out in the field, it's gonna, honestly, they're gonna function the same way they do today, because they don't communicate today on site. And that's, each county functions a little bit differently, each first responders function a little bit differently on site, have different protocols, and, you know, speaking with the sheriff and speaking with the fire department, you know, I've been in contact with both of them, and they feel that this is the best route for Suwannee County.
That makes sense, as long as dispatch can. do it.
Exactly, dispatch will be able to hear everybody.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
On this radio, the sheriff department will be on with highway patrol, agriculture,
FDLE,
FDLE, everything.
yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yep, you have two tactical channels that everyone, if they get onto a scene of a large accident or anything like that, everyone can change over to those tactical channels, and everyone will be able to communicate at that point.
And
Commissioner White?
I just wanted to ask you while you were there, this channel expansion of $231,000,
Yes, sir.
what does that cover?
So currently in this area with the sites that Suwannee County will be using on the state system, there are not enough channels allocated to bring the number of users on. So that is to put more radio equipment at each of the sites that will be needed for the expansion of the state system in this area. So that's radio expansion for the actual state system to
I
expand
don't know, just a
on.
big number, I just want to know.
Yes, sir, absolutely, gotcha.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Commissioner Lane.
Josh.
Yes, sir.
One question, on the slurs user fees, are those 5-year, 10-year, and then the end of slurs and the interop, is that, let's just say 10-year greater than 100 users, which I think that would be us, is that our monthly fee?
Yes, sir.
Per
That's,
radio?
yes,
Is
sir.
that what that is?
Yes, that's, and that is what gets you out of the tower business. That monthly fee is
I
your
understand.
24/7 observation of the radio system. If you have anything that goes wrong with the radio system, there is a number that you call into. Williams Communications is then dispatched. We have a 2-hour response time to anything down on the system. That basically covers the maintenance of the system every year.
what's the difference between the end of slurs monthly fee and the interop? I mean, I'm just.
So
asking.
an interop user does not use the state radio system as their primary source of communication.
I got you.
An interop user is someone who has the state radio system in their radios, but they still have their own radio system. So that's why you'll see that number to be less expensive, because they're not using it on a day-to-day operations basis.
And then on a lighter note, you got $8,500 in here for personality development. Is that for the sheriff or with Buddy or?
It's Sheriff, Buddy, Sean, we're gonna develop a personality a little bit more. No, basically that's what we'd use to build the radio channels that go into the radio. So what they actually speak on, what they see, how they want it configured, how it's configured at dispatch, how the system see at each of the sites, the system will see those radio channels. That whole spreadsheet fleet mapping configuration, that's what that covers.
I'll just make sure Mr. Chairman didn't put that in there for me.
Never.
Sheriff, how many radios are we getting? I mean, I know I've seen it in here somewhere, but I'm just, for the public, how many cars have we got and how many radios are we getting?
124 total. That's between the mobiles and the handhelds.
We're getting 47 mobiles, what is it?
47, I think, on mobile.
Yeah, 47 mobiles, we have,
60 portables?
I think it's 70. 70 portables, and then the radios at dispatch.
So, say that to me one more time.
So you're getting 47 mobiles, you're getting 60 of the handheld portables.
47 mobiles go in the car?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And then you have 70 of the actual handheld radios, and then you're getting 5 radios at dispatch.
Any other questions?
Yes, I mean,
Any other, the board have any other questions for the gentleman?
At this time, I would say it gives me the most pleasure since I've been on this board to, on behalf of the law enforcement officers of this county, to call for a vote. Do I have a motion to approve pending what Mr. Harris said about the funding? We want to document that.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I would say that if you vote to do this, it would be contingent upon, subject to, one, it would require a budget amendment. We need to make sure that the funds are here, that we're free to use those funds, and then it does require a budget amendment, which means advertising public hearing for that purpose.
Understood. Mr. Val?
I just was to remind Mr. Harris that there is a few other contractual things that need to be clarified from the packet that you have there that we'll also need to review when they get the updates, putting in there. So I would ask that you add on the end of that it would be subject to county administrator and county attorney review.
At this time?
Is anything need to be addressed in that motion as well as the
You can do it all at
the
once.
county on it versus the sheriff, or anything need to be addressed in that motion as far as who would own the radios,
contract.
contract?
I think y'all are making the motion for yourselves, as I understood it. I mean,
Mr. Baker, did you have a question or comment?
So, as far as I think Randy's statement was covered, but if we could, I'd like to make sure that we have at least passed it in front of the, I'd like clarification from, to make sure from the people that would be doing the audit, that we would cover under those. And I know that it's under a different category, but that is where I just want to make sure that there is no issues with the audit. So you don't want to audit finding and then have to return something back. I don't think there's going to be an issue from everything that I'm saying. But I would like for Randy and his staff to work with Keith and finance on that. I know we have not even seen the contract as of this afternoon. It's whether they did get to see it. It's whether that I know that they have some major questions. I would like, our staff needs to be able to review the stuff. If Keith and them do not have the information in front of them, we can.
I understand what you're saying, Mr. Baker, but I feel like you were a little upset with us this evening here. I'm
not upset,
misreading that?
I just want, it's where, the statutes say that, if I were to pay a warrant, and it's later be found illegal, I personally am responsible for the money. That the clerk is the only one in the county responsible for that. The county commission can have, it's where there could be legal issues, you could be put in jail, but I'm just saying the clerk is the only one that has its legal responsibilities there as far as that's the cost. So that being the case, I just want to make sure our bases are covered.
I don't have a problem understanding or agreeing with that. I just,
As far as the radios, I think the radios are greatly needed. I'm in full support of that. I appreciate Commissioner White's comments on that. If the county's paying for it, I think it also should be on the county as well. So, but I just want to make sure that there are no issues as far as the audits, as far as these go as well. Okay. If it is contingent upon us receiving the funds, and those funds are found to be able to be used.
Mr. Baker, do you know how long this is gonna be before we get this audit, or you got any idea?
Where that, I know Nita was trying to get some answers this afternoon. It's where it's the gentleman was out of town, she also.
Is that an audit by our guy or by the state?
We were asking questions of our own.
Or by our account?
Yeah.
Okay.
That is where that she was also trying to get some answers from the state. And that's the reason, if we don't have the information in front of us, it's where there's no way we can direct.
are you saying that you didn't have the information as we spoke this morning, that you didn't receive the email, but then this afternoon you did receive the email? Just so I'm clear, is that the only reason you didn't have the information? Just so.
I think Keith and them received it this afternoon. That's where I think Terry and them had received it a little earlier. I have not had a chance. It wasn't.
But I'm saying that was the information was in the email that obviously had a problem getting there, is my point. And then this afternoon, because you had spoke with me this morning at the legislative meeting and said that you didn't receive it. And then I spoke with our office and asked them to follow up and find out. And obviously, I just wanted to make sure that we're talking about the same thing, where there's not another problem or breakdown in communication somewhere else that's keeping you from
It's
getting
just
something.
important that our staff has the information so that we can also, our job is to take and service finance. We need that information as quickly as we can. So
Understood.
that we can.
Understood, sir.
Good, but I don't wanna go to jail.
I'm not writing $1 million check.
Bottom line is, I don't want to be one.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, let me just say that we are communicating with the state on the funds because they're administering the funds from the federal government to us. We've been communicating with them. They've agreed with everything that we plan to do, okay? Now, as soon as we have all the letters that it takes and all the paperwork finalized with them that we know that we're working on, both we and the state are working on this, and I'll sit down with finance and Mr. Powell if necessary, and we'll satisfy everyone's concerns before we actually place the order. We don't plan to place any orders on anything until we know that we know that that funding is absolutely not only in our possession, and we have enough in our possession today to cover this expense. I'm just gonna tell you that. We do. That we've already received. But I want all the paperwork finalized before we place the order.
Just to clarify for the public and for the sheriff, we have to do a budget amendment.
That's a requirement regardless.
And that is gonna take us,
We have to advertise for that, so that could easily take 3 weeks, it might be 4 weeks, just depends. But we're not gonna advertise that until we have the paperwork from the state and federal government finalized, then we will advertise.
I mean, I understand the legality of it, actually I'd like to order it tonight, but I understand it, but just as long as we're moving forward, because, it's been a long time coming, and I know all, will be appreciated, and all my guys and gals will appreciate if we're able to do this, guys. Thank y'all.
thank you. At this time, it was in discussions, now we're gonna have to kind of
Figure out
Do I have
motion.
someone willing to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
So I
All
got,
that in it.
right, so now we need to clarify what the motion is gonna entail, Commissioner White.
I'll make the motion that we buy the sheriff's radios contingent on the federal funds being audited and released before we place an order. And I also would like, or we need it in the Board of County Commissioners name contract. Is there anything else?
Was there anything else, Mr. Pravat?
And the completion of the budget.
The budget
And
amendment.
completed budget amendment.
Does that cover it, Mr. Pravat?
Yes, sir.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. I have a motion by Commissioner White, a second by Commissioner Fleming. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0.
Chairman, Commissioners, thank y'all. I appreciate it a whole lot. You don't know how much. Thank y'all.
Thank you. At this time, we have additional agenda item. Adoption of resolution associated with the State of Florida EMS County Awards Grant regarding use of funds.
This is just a requirement of the grant administrator that we pass a resolution that speaks to the use of the funds.
I have any questions, comments? Do I have a motion? Have a motion by Commissioner Fleming.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Land. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. At this time, I will, Mr. Harris, let's go ahead and get that update on that real quick.
Good news on the rail spur. I told you before I wasn't an expert on these geotech issues, and I'll just remind you of that, but thankfully my theory was confirmed by the engineers that went out there and took a look at that. It was more, the issues were associated with something very near the surface. It wasn't the grouting or chemical grouting that we had done. That apparently appears to be intact. But it did require some raising of the tracks and moving some gravel around and shoring up those cross ties. I had actually contacted a company to go ahead and do that after I spoke with the engineers. And they were prepared to go out there and take care of it. They visited the site yesterday and called me and said, well, it looks like it's already been done. And what actually occurred was the railroad went out there and did it. They sent the equipment out because those rail cars were stuck out there north of this area. There were 25 cars out there, I think. So they took the equipment out there and did it themselves. I was thankful for that. Even that would have been a minor, relatively minor expense. I think they quoted me something just under $8,000 to take care of that, but the railroad went ahead and took care of it. So we're back in business.
Thank you, sir. At this time, I'll open the floor to the public. Do I have anyone from the public wishing to speak this evening? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They fill out a card or something like that.
You're fine. Just state your name and address for the record.
My name is Tom Gilmanny. I live at 13949 86 Terrace. My question is kind of simple. It's applicable what we're talking about today, and it's budgets. I ran Gold Kist or Pilgrims for several years and had a $70 million budget, so I have a little idea how this process works. But my question to you commissioners here tonight is that when you're starting to build a budget for the next year, what is the process you use to build that budget? Is it something like zero-based budgeting, where you go through how many kilowatts you're going to use in a building, to how many patrol cars you need to change out, or how many emergency vehicles you need, or equipment such as that? I'm not sure how it works around here. It seems like you're moving money from one place to another, where when you do a budget, if you have an emergency, you got contingency money, which is what I hear here tonight. You got contingency money. Well, to me, the contingency money should be used when you have a real emergency, not roundabout sinks. We got a sinkhole, or the water tower with the softball field falls down. That's what we use that contingency money for. If this is something that you really think you need, then you need to pull it out of another line item and move that money over, if you really need it. Okay? But it seems like we're playing a shell game around here. I look around this county, and I've lived in some pretty nice counties. Benton County, Arkansas, Walmart headquarters, a lot of money in Benton County, Arkansas. I have never seen a place that has dump trucks as nice as this. Police cars, policemen with pickup trucks. I didn't know we were doing, looking for deer hunters poaching. Emergency vehicles, ambulances, just state-of-the-art stuff. I'm not saying things don't need to be replaced. They do. They wear out. Equipment wore out at the plant. I had usually $9–10 million to buy new equipment every year. But if I hit a roadblock and everything is, in every quarter I could spend this much money, then I had to take money out of something else if an emergency came up. I just don't understand the process here in Rhinebeck. That was my question.
I appreciate your comments, sir. Obviously, everyone in this county is a taxpayer. They have a right to their thoughts, and I will say this: I'm proud of this county. I'm proud of how this county's run. I'm proud of fire rescue and sheriff's department, police department, all of them. I understand that you got concerns about they having nice equipment, and I understand that you may be upset about how some of those monies are spent. And could we all do better? We could. Absolutely, we could. I'm not saying for 1 minute that we couldn't do better and maybe pinch our pennies. I could do that better at home. I mean, we all can, but each one of these different entities, we trust we have great people running them, and we have to put our support in them, and that they do the right thing by the county. So I appreciate exactly, I have respect for what you're saying, but also I want to stand up for those folks too.
Oh, you know, I'm not denigrating them, and I appreciate everything. And you know, I have 30 years in the military as well,
appreciate
so I
your
understand
service.
how that works. Okay, and I appreciate the fact that you're paying for my retirement. So thank you very much. But there's a difference between want to have and need to have. In the military, we call it a war stopper. If you got a war stopper, you got a bullet, you gotta have bullets. But are we really looking at what we want to have or what we need to have? Okay, that's my final.
Duly noted. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. Do I have any other questions or comments from the public this evening? Anybody else wishing to speak? Yes, sir.
My name's Ted Wilton. I live on 914 Suwannee Avenue.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me. I moved up here from Monroe County in 1988. And there was a pipe that followed from Dade County all the way down to Key West, carried our water. They put in a new line, and all this water, brand new lines, pressure would build up in the old homes along the water lines, and they blew out most of the residences, so everything had to be replaced. Suwannee Avenue has got pipes, and they're at least 50 years old. And I'm sure I'm sharing a lot of other concerns inside the city. In fact, I wrote down the City of Live Oak's phone number, 2276. Said, you got a leak in front of my house, or my neighbor. due to this, the lines are old. Our taxes pay for these lines to work. So if we have new folks that wanna, God bless Suwannee County, they wanna move in, what is gonna draw them if you see the city outside fixing the pipes? It doesn't make sense. It's a one-time fix. Yeah, it's gonna cost some money, but it's that money tree that my grandmother told me that if you want something back there, with that money tree. It doesn't, it's mind-boggling. I don't know, our taxes, our, the roads, I understand our gas tax goes up, so this is supposed to go through and pay for the speed bumps that we have in the city of Live Oak. And these roads are in shambles. I don't know if I'm voicing everybody else's opinion, but I got 12 grandkids, 5 kids, they're all married, they're all working, but hey, Dad, I gotta go find another job.
I appreciate your comments, and if the other commissioners would like to respond also. I will say this, even this morning, I had a conversation with Mr. George Curtis. He's the new city administrator, and I'll share this with the board now. I've reached out to him, and I told him as this COVID moves along and we're able to get where we can meet more, that I would, on behalf of the county, I would like for our board to reach out with them and the city and have a round table thing and do it more often. You know, if we try to do something once a quarter or something like that, there's things, and even with Brantford, I mean, you know, we need to bring people, we need to have more discussions. This gentleman's, he's stating things that I hear every day, and I'm not gonna sit here and, you know, the first thing a lot of folks wanna do is sit here and say, well, that's in the city, we're in the county, but no, we're all live here together. And I'm not one to, you know, just kick the can down the road and put it off on somebody. I want us all to come together, city and county, Brantford also, and work together and get creative with some solutions that will benefit everybody. And that takes dedication and it takes time, but it is something that I truly believe this board is capable of doing. We got a great board, and we just have to push one another to get there and make things better for everyone.
I agree 100%. City of Live Oak's got some new leadership over there, and I think that they're passionate about making some changes. I've spoken to the mayor several times about Hellinston, and they're working on the pipes, and basically, we own the road, they own the pipes. Y'all fix the pipes, we'll pave the road. No need in paving a new road without the pipe, and then, you know, so I think they got some new leadership, and hopefully by you reaching out to them and encouraging that, we can, you know, start working together and getting some things done inside city.
And just, I mean, Mr. Curtis was very receptive, so I mean, we're definitely gonna have some progress.
I'm very glad to hear that, because I think me and Clyde was probably the only ones on the board. We had one meeting with them, if I recall, one meeting, and it just never, you know. Yeah, so I'm glad you did that. I appreciate you for doing that.
And just like this gentleman, he makes an excellent point. I mean, you can run out there 100 times and patch that one little line that comes off that main line, but you need to fix that main line, you know, and then start at the bottom, work your way up. Obviously, the bottom's the pipes in the ground, and then the road comes on top of it. So we appreciate your comments tonight, sir. It's just trust us. It's front and center for all of us. Do I have anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Seeing none, I will close public comment at this time. Mr. Pravat, do you have anything?
No, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Harris? Sir, Commissioner White?
Just glad we got through it all. That's all I got.
Commissioner Lane?
Echo what Commissioner White said. Glad we got through it, made some progress for the people, for the sheriff's department and their safety, and that's a double-edged sword. I think that the employees need of the sheriff's department, but that could depend on, we talk about saving a deputy's life, it could be your life. He can't get out to get hold of EMT, so that was a win-win. Yeah, they're expensive, but I mean, Fayette County's got it. Ain't no reason why Suwannee County can't get on the train.
Basically, if you know Brian.
Anyway, that's all I got. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Fleming?
I can say the same thing, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate you, my colleague tonight. I want to have this man's word tonight, getting this radio situation behind us. And to the gentleman that got up and spoke on Suwannee Avenue, join 6th Street. And a day go by, that water's puffing up out of the ground.
Yep.
And when we was in that drought, you could almost water your lawn on that street because there's water gushing up out. And you gotta call them every day. They got to the point, the city got to the point where they just put cones out there, barriers, cones out there. So, we have a bad issue here in the city of Live Oak. Commissioner Hale, exactly right, we had one meeting, and that was the only meeting, because it was a roadblock. And I hope that the new leadership, that we can move forward and try to get some things done in the city. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Fleming. Commissioner Hale?
I agree with everything that's been said here. I'd just like to mention, we had the legislative delegation meet today. Glad to see everyone out there. A lot of our department heads, our community leaders, other elected officials, as well as the public. There's quite a few people that got up and spoke. I'm encouraged by that, because just like you gentlemen coming to speak tonight, that's what we're here for, to listen to you guys. And those folks are out there today as well, so I just want to commend everybody for that. And like Mr. White said, we've got, when you open this prayer, just keep everyone in your prayers. There's still some issues out there we're all dealing with. We've got a long road with this pandemic, but we trust in God things will turn out right.
Thank you, sir. I just echo what everyone else has said, and I will say, the man upstairs will answer prayers, because just like he was saying about Commissioner White's prayer tonight, he said, please give us some wisdom to make some good decisions tonight. And it worked out. A lot of times you come into these meetings and you've got some tough items that you got to face head on, and you got to figure out how to get through them. And I'm just grateful to this board tonight that we was able to talk it through, and appreciate everybody. Each one of us has a voice, and we need to be able to talk about it, make something happen, instead of just talking about it and not, getting somewhere. That's the frustrating part. So I'm grateful for each of you tonight for that. Thankful for these gentlemen coming and speaking. Absolutely, we're here. We're only here because the people put us here, and we try to do the best we can every day. And it's the people of Suwannee County, it's their right and responsibility to hold each one of us accountable. If there's something that we're not doing right, that we could do better, that's exactly why this room has chairs in it, for you to come tell us about it, and I appreciate that. I don't have a problem with it whatsoever. I will say, Mr. Baker, I didn't mean to be disrespectful to you whatsoever. I just kind of in the heat of the moment here, and we're fighting about dollars, and I understand you got a job to do too, so I do want to apologize if I was out of line for anything. With that being said, all I need is a motion to approve this.
Hold on.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. Chairman, now, if you come up to the front, if you come up to the podium, please. It was putting me on the spot, and I forgot. And I saw his hand, he got my attention. On last week, we went out to Bendigo. And it was my second tour going out there. And Charles had it. We saw it, the operation in, but we went out to Bendigo last Thursday, and we took another tour. And they shared some information with us that, and Jimmy kept telling me, Mr. Norris kept telling me, all right, you make sure you got all this down? I said, yeah, you sure do. And we went out last week, and we had a very good visit. And the amount of money that they paid for the company, and the amount of money that they're putting into the company, we stand to reap some very good benefits. 8, 9 years ago, when I was sitting on this very board, and Mr. Harris said something to this board, to that board, to the fact that be careful. And it made me feel like he was working against me, but I didn't understand. he was just trying to tell us to be careful. But lo and behold, Clausen did leave. But sometimes a bad situation work out for the good. Lo and behold, Benton's coming on. And they purchased that plant, and they should start operation on next month, on the 15th, somewhere about the 15th, middle of the month. They're gonna start out with, I think, 80, 90 employees, and by the summer, we're looking at probably 100 plus. And at the end of the year's end, it'll be up to 271. So I'm saying, you know, we're gonna have a tax base, they're putting people to work. I wanna tip my hat to Mr. Nard. He had to work hard to get those people to look out in our direction. We just could have had an old building, an old facility out there that just rusting away money and just been thrown away. But I thank God for you, and I told you that, but I didn't tell you I was gonna get you up here and put you on the spot.
That's right.
But anyway, we had a very good visit out there with those guys from Australia, and got a chance to learn more than I learned the first time. Austria. Okay. We had those guys that came in, and